Yes, sir. Art Petrie is a do-it-yourself man. Right now, Art is building, he's constructing, looks mighty interesting, whatever it is. Let's see now. Art needs a 45-degree angle cut here, so he just marks off the cut, props the board in a couple of blocks, and there, he's all set. Now to get the cut started. There, that's it. Oops! Ouch! Ooh, that saw caught Art right across the knuckles. I guess you can't blame Art for being mad. He's not hurt bad. It's just that, well, here's the whole story. You see, Art is a foreman over at the plant. His job is to tell others how to do things right. So he felt kind of foolish showing up with a bandaged hand. As bad luck would have it, almost the first fellow he ran into was his friend Pete, the carpenter boss. Pete wanted to know what bit him. Oh, Art said, I just got a little careless with a saw. No, I don't think you were careless, Pete said. You probably just don't know how to use a saw. There's quite a knack to it. Wait a minute, Art said. I've been using a saw all my life. Now you tell me I don't know how? Well, we'll see, Pete said. Next chance you get, bring your saw over to the shop and we'll find out. Yep, just as I thought, Pete said. You are using a dull saw. Go on. Show me what else you did. So Art showed Pete how he had propped the board on a couple of blocks and, well, just started cutting. That's when the saw jumped out of the cut and ripped across his knuckles. No wonder, Pete said. To begin with, you should have been using a miter box. And here, use a good saw. Another thing, you've got to handle it right. Here, try it yourself. No, not like that. Smooth and easy. Don't lunge at it. There, that's better. See? Nothing to it if you know how. Knowing how is important on any job. When the fellows who work for me do something crazy or dangerous, I figure it's not so much that they're careless, they just don't know any better. Uh-oh, just a minute. There's one now. Just look what that fellow is using for a scaffold. 1-inch boards laid loose across the forks of a lift truck. It's a sure thing he doesn't know the chance he's taking. There. Maybe that little demonstration will help. Pete sent the driver for a portable stage that they use for jobs like that. Then he spent a little time talking to the young fellow. He showed him that there was a knot in that board. It never would have held him. But even if the boards had been strong, Pete said that lying loose on the forks like that, they were likely to slip. What you need, he said, is a solid platform like this with a railing. It was made especially for this kind of a job, so that's the thing to use. You know, Pete said when he got back, I'll bet that young fellow didn't even know that a board with a knot in it could break so easy. Yeah, Art said, I'm painting the garage at home, and the plank I've been standing on looks pretty bad, too. Guess I'd better saw it up and get me a new one. Good idea, Pete laughed. But do me a favor, huh? This time, be a little more careful about the way you use that saw. Well, back in his department, Art was thinking about what Pete had said. That people do dangerous things because they don't know any better. And talking about dangerous things, just look at this. Holy smoke of all... How can anyone be so dumb? Bumping a compressed gas cylinder across the floor without a cap on. Sure, Jim was new on this job, but everybody knows about gas cylinders. Or do they? Art remembered that he hadn't given the new fellow much instruction. Just keep the welder supplied with the cylinders. Well, that's all he told him. Well, right then and there, Art took the time to teach Jim the correct way to do the job. The cap must always be in place, he said, to protect the valve. Because if the valve should get broken off, brother, that cylinder could take off like a rocket. Another thing, Art said, A gas cylinder should never be rolled or handled roughly. He showed Jim how the cylinder should be put on a special truck and chained in. Yes, that's the way. Boy, that sure proved one thing. What people don't know can hurt. And from now on, Art was going to make it his business to see that they did know. Art was like most foremen. He didn't think of himself as being a teacher, and yet giving instruction was probably the biggest part of his job. Every day people did dangerous things, like this welder letting sparks fall on the feed hose. It was up to Art to stop these unsafe practices, to teach people the correct way of doing their jobs. Foreman doesn't turn out production himself. He gets things done by teaching others. And a big part of teaching is correcting people every single time he sees them doing something wrong. Of course, a foreman's teaching job isn't an easy one. He works with all kinds of people, some younger and some older than he, some with experience and some without. Some of the men catch on quickly, and others, well, then there are others like Ted Carlson. Oh, no, Art can't count the times he's shown Ted how to do that job. But there's nothing to do but start over again. That's it. Always take the time to fasten the work in a vise. And make sure it's secure so it won't whip around while you're drilling. It could tear your fingers off. No, you want to get a steel sliver in your hand? Use the brush for chips. That's what it's there for. Yes, Ted's a slow learner. Sometimes you've got to show him over and over again. But, well, that's just part of a foreman's job. And this is Bill, another type you'll find in almost any department. He's an experienced man, a good worker, but he's on a new job. Things are bound to be different. See, Bill is an old-time truck operator. But there are different controls on different trucks. So Bill needs some on-the-job training just as much as if he were a new worker. Art has also found that even with an experienced worker, there are some special rules and special conditions that he needs to be taught. For example, they've always allowed smoking around the plant. Bill's always smoked on his previous jobs. It's a habit with him. So now he lights up without realizing that in some places smoking can be downright dangerous. He doesn't even see that no smoking sign up there. So when Art stops Bill and tells him that smoking isn't allowed, he can't understand it. No one ever objected to his smoking before. What's so different about this spot? So Art explains the difference. It's that highly flammable liquid that's being used in that dip tank. It'd take just one spark and boom, a place that'd blow sky high. Well, that kind of talk anybody'd understand. And Bill's no exception. Oh, Art also tells Bill to be careful about taking those corners because of the wide loads he has to carry on this job. Yes, maybe Bill is a little set in his ways, but he isn't too different from most people. When you really get to know them, you show them the why of things, they're reasonable enough, more than willing to fall in step. Yes, there are all kinds of people in every department, and they all require different treatment. One of the types that can be difficult is the sensitive worker, especially if the sensitive worker happens to be a woman like Evelyn. Art had reminded Evelyn a couple of times that she shouldn't be wearing that ring. You're liable to lose a finger, he told her. But Evelyn is sentimental about that ring. She's never had it off before. So no sourpuss foreman was going to tell her whether or not she could wear her wedding ring. Finally, Art had an idea. This time he didn't say a word to Evelyn about the ring. He just handed her some pictures, told her to take a look. Actual photographs of accidents that had happened to people because they were wearing rings around moving machinery. Well, they weren't pretty to look at. Not a nice sight. No, Evelyn didn't like what she saw. She handed the pictures back to Art, slipped the ring off her finger, and put it into her pocket. Yes, you could just tell that the photos had made an impression. They'd done the job that Art had intended. This time, perhaps Evelyn's ring was off to stay. Of course, teaching isn't always correcting. Lots of times it's just stopping to talk to a man about his work, showing an interest, giving him a little pat on the back for what he's doing right. But even when you have to correct a worker for some little thing or some big thing even, you can do it helpfully and pleasantly, without nagging. It takes time and patience, sure, but the average foreman is a pretty good teacher. He has to be, or chances are he wouldn't have been made a foreman in the first place. Pete walked into Art's office not so long ago, and look what he picked up. They both laughed about it, remembering that business about the saw. Remember that day you showed me how to use it right? Art asked. You know, I felt pretty good about it. Guess it's just a matter of pride to want to do any job well, the right way. You know, if I feel that way about it, what about all those people out there who work for me? Chances are they want to do their jobs right, too. Yes, as Art says, those people do want to do their jobs right, all of them. The slow learners like Ted, the old-timers like Bill who are set in their ways, the fellows like Jim, brand new on the job, and, yes, the sensitive workers like Evelyn, too. All those people out there are different in a lot of ways, sure, just like you and me. But like most of us, they want to do their jobs right, if they know how. But somebody has to show them. Somebody has to teach them the right way to work without getting hurt. And the only one who can do that is the foreman.